Hey everyone, so this is going to be my review for We Happy Few. It rhymes. Okay, so I'll give a quick overview of the history of the game. The game was much more of a indie game originally. It still kind of feels like one. It was crowdfunded back as early as like 2015, 2016, and then later on it got Gearbox as a publisher, and then after that, a lot of changes were made to the game, such as like increasing the price of the game. Originally, I think it was about half price, and then after Gearbox signed up, the price went to full retail. So if you actually bought the game when it was like in early access so long ago, you would have bought it for an old price. Because I remember like I bought it like so many years ago and actually forgot about it. And then when I was looking at how much I spent, I didn't spend that much on the game at all because I was one of the like original people who like bought it before. So I won't give any spoilers, but I will give you a quick synopsis of the plot, so that you can like kind of understand the game better because the game is so unique. You can kind of compare the game to the novel Brave New World, where everyone basically, if you don't know, in that book, everyone is like a dystopia, and everyone has to take a whole bunch of drugs just to get through life. Not just to get through life, but these drugs will actually make you feel happy, and if you don't take them, it's not really good. It's a dystopia. Everything is all shitty, and it's like that in this game. Everything is kind of shitty, and you'll see it within the first 5 minutes of the game. And basically, yeah, if you stop taking the drugs in the game, you have lots of people watching other people, lots of officers and stuff. And if you stop taking the drugs that make you happy in the game, then you're gonna get arrested and like killed or like thrown out, that kind of stuff. And most of the game is built on this simple premise. So the protagonist of the game, or should I say, the first playable character, is Arthur. And in the very beginning of the game, you'll notice that he has flashbacks of his brother. And basically, as you progress through the game, you solve the mystery of what had happened so many years ago when you were both kids. The game does. I notice how I said first playable character. It's because the plot, it does feature other protagonists as well, and I'll touch on that more later in the review. So the atmosphere of the game, it really is reminiscent of a lot of old video game titles, like things like BioShock, for example. In this game, though, this game is more of I shouldn't say 1960s, maybe it's like 1950s, but it's like a 1950s England, but it's a dystopia. And you'll see that a lot of work was put into the art design and the atmosphere of the game to try to make it feel like it was like from the olden days. When I looked at some of the character designs, I would think it would remind me of like Austin Powers. uh, okay, so that's some of the praise I give the game because I really love like the uniqueness of it, the art style, all of that. Like, even though it does the same thing other games did before it, like BioShock, it takes a new approach to it. It's not like it's copy paste or anything, no. And especially when you have lots of like bland games and stuff, it is really interesting to see. It's just so unique. Like, they're really challenging themselves. It's more difficult to make this kind of atmosphere. And when you look at the like outside, when you look at the world when you're on drugs in the game, like it looks so bright and colorful. Like there really is a good contrast in the game. They actually have both like really good, really happy looking locations, atmosphere, that kind of stuff, and they also have the dystopia that you're actually in when you don't take the drugs, and you'll see like how nasty everything is and how real it is and how sad it is. Like these people, they really did have really good art design. So I'll talk about the downsides of the game, and unfortunately, there are a lot of downsides to the game. You can when you play the game, you can really tell it feels like an early access kind of indie game. You can tell that the game is very budgeted. Although the art design is phenomenal, the graphics are okay. The graphics are doable. The graphics are not particularly good, but they get the job done. But the problem with playing the game upon release, at least, because I'm playing it upon release, and maybe they'll fix it later. But the problem is that it's really really badly optimized. Not even if you have a high end PC, you'll get through it a bit more easily. But if you're playing on a console like the PS4, Xbox One, you're screwed. This game is just like Homefront: The Revolution. Back in 2016, if you're not familiar with that game, basically Homefront: The Revolution was a game on consoles, and it was just so poorly optimized. You'd regularly get dips of below like not even 20 FPS. You'd get like 5 FPS in some sections because of how bad it was optimized. And if like this game is just like that, it's sad. Um, but that's how We Happy Few is. When I was playing through it, I have a really high end PC, and even I'm getting like a whole bunch of stuttering issues, graphical bugs, all of that. And I've seen my friends playing on their consoles, and yeah, it is like unplayable because the problem is that you have combat and all that. You have to time like hitting, you have to time blocking. So having a low FPS, it actually makes the game very frustrating to play. There's lots of looting that you have to do in the game as well, but looting gets so annoying when you have such a low frame per second rate. Um, and yeah, no matter what I've tried tweaking the game myself, but all I get is it's not even like consistent frame rate. It's a variable frame rate, and it just gets so unpleasant to look at. So although the art design, the artwork, it looks amazing, the assets just seem to be so poorly optimized, and it's weird because I've played the early access version of the game and it wasn't so bad. So it makes me wonder what changes they did. Maybe they went like a little bit too far when they were doing the final touches to the game. I don't know what to say. Maybe if you wait, you'll get a patch. I know that Homefront: The Revolution was eventually fixed, so maybe if you wait on this game, maybe you'll get a patch that will fix the variable frame rate. So, although another criticism I have about the game is that although the towns, because there's towns in the game, there's like towns and then there's like the wilderness, and although the towns, the cities, they're so lively and the characters are stylish, all the characters pretty much have the same models. Like all the males have the same model, all the females have the same models, all the cops have the same model, and all they do is just change the clothes on top of the character. So you kind of do see, although the characters are uniquely designed, you can tell that the game is like really budget because you just keep seeing the same generic characters. And it's not just that. Sometimes you get really just bad design. Okay, so here let me give an example of some things that made me just made me like go what the hell. One character you play as has a house, and for some reasons it was really buggy. I would just see NPCs regularly spawning inside of my house, and the doors would all be closed and stuff. And then randomly, I would just see like the grandma character just walking around in my kitchen, and then not even just that. I've had characters just randomly come into my house and start saying, "Why aren't you taking the drugs? Why aren't you taking the drugs?" And I'm like, "What the hell is this?" Like, I closed up all the doors to the house, and then some people are just coming inside. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's not just that. Another oversight was like the NPCs. Okay, so the NPCs are programmed to say, "Get out of my house" when you're trespassing. That's their dialogue. That's fine. But there's certain parts of the game where you have to trespass things like company sites and mining sites, and it was just so funny because the miners, like working at the mines that I was trespassing, they saw me and they're yelling at me, "Get out of my house," even though like I'm at their workplace. It's just so stupid and ridiculous. You can really tell that the game was budgeted, sadly. Let me talk a little bit about the gameplay. The gameplay is not too bad. The gameplay has a crafting system, and it has a big looting system. In this game, the game is very loot heavy, so you have to keep collecting plants when you're outside so that you can make medicines. Otherwise, you're just gonna die in combat. You can make outfits. Outfits can be used in different areas, disguises. Some outfits have different resistances, like some have resistances to electricity, some has melee resistance, all of that kind of stuff. And there's weapons that you can make. You can find weapons, and you can even use vendors. So the vendors will sell you some of the loot that you could find as well. And you can find currency around the game either by stealing or finding it from enemies. That stuff. The game can be pretty random with spawns sometimes, and sometimes you can get unlucky. I did notice that the developers actually did anticipate this to a certain extent. Oftentimes, I would find myself doing the main storyline missions, and I would have to get through a locked door, and often these locked doors wouldn't have keys. Sometimes they would have keys, but often they wouldn't, and that means you would have to lockpick the door. Lockpicking is done automatically. You don't have to fumble around with minigames, but the thing is you have to craft a lockpick from bobby pins, which you can find throughout the world. Sometimes you can be caught into an awkward situation where you go into the main storyline and you went really deep into this building, really deep into a dungeon, and you can't find any lockpick materials. And one thing I noticed is that sometimes, though, the developers would actually leave, like right before the locked door, they would leave a bunch of bobby pins. So it's good that they saw that. That's not done all the time, though. So you can still be caught into a situation where you can't find it, and you have to like go all the way outside the building and start looting people randomly to get through that area of the game. But otherwise, no. Actually, sometimes they did notice that. So I do like that. You can kind of see that the game was play tested. They did try to rough out those kinds of inconveniences. The game is forgiving. If you let's say you rob places and you die, the game is forgiving and it will try to take you to the last like autosave. And the game autosaves often. The game doesn't save if you're it doesn't autosave if you're in a dying state. So if you actually so what I used to do was I like to save my medicine for when I really needed it, like for the last case scenario, because sometimes you can take a few hits. Like think of this: would you rather take a hit and then quickly use your healing item, or would you rather take like as much hits as possible and then use your healing item? Because like I didn't want to I would do the latter because I don't want to waste my healing items, so I would do that. But the thing is that if you're in a dying state with low health and you complete a lot of missions, the game won't be auto saving, and then if you die, you'll have to go through like hours before. Not many people would do that, but that's just me because I wanted to use my health kit. See, if I had used my health kit before and I had undone the dying state, then the game would have auto-saved. You see what I mean? So I wouldn't have to have redone so much of the game. But because I kept liking to go around doing missions in a low health state, they were being cautious. They didn't want to autosave the game because they were scared that I would get into an unwinnable situation. So I see why they did that. But no, I don't want to complain about that though. The game is actually pretty forgiving usually. But I played it on like the normal difficulty though, so I don't know if you're playing on hard. It might be really difficult. But there is one thing though I should make an exception to that. It is actually very difficult at the beginning of the game. So as you progress through the game, you can buy more skills, and these skills, in general, they just make the game a lot easier. It makes you easier to sneak, easier to craft stuff, all of that. You know how I said you have to take drugs or else everybody gets mad at you, in the city, in the game? Well, like there's lots of weird situations. Like let's say you take the drug and then it runs out and then the officer sees you. Well then you're screwed and now you have to run away, you have to hide, you have to go all over the place. So if you're just trying to get to a mission and then suddenly your drug runs out, oh you're screwed. The game tries to be nice and give you they have like these telephone booths where you can take the drug for free if you don't have any of it. So if you can make it to the telephone booth quickly, like if you see that your dose is running out for the drug and you're about to like get out of the drug state, then you can quickly run to those. They they're usually on every other street corner. Sometimes you'll get unlucky, and then you won't be able to find one, and then you get killed. So and then you have to go back to the old save points. So that kind of sucks. So in the beginning, it sucks because yeah, you don't have skills. You can't run that well. Everyone just gets so mad at you so easily. So in the beginning of the game, yeah, it is very frustrating. As you go through the game, you'll be able to find the drug is called joy. You'll be able to find joy pills throughout the world and stuff. So then when you get access to these pills later on in the game, then you can just pop a pill whenever you need to in an emergency situation, so that you don't get like killed and stuff, so that people don't get so mad at you. So that's a plus. But in the beginning, yeah, it is really tough. And it's not even just that. It's just like things like running and stuff will make people suspicious, and they'll get mad at you if you keep running and jumping. So it's kind of like the original. Maybe I shouldn't make the comparison, but it reminds me of the original Assassin's Creed, because what happened is, in the original Assassin's Creed, basically, after a certain point in the game, if you start running, everyone just gets mad at you. So it gets a real chore just to get from one mission area to another. And this game is kind of like that in the beginning. With certain characters and certain skills, you will be able to run more easily, and then people would notice you. You can sneak more easily. So that's why I keep saying it's only a problem in the beginning of the game. It sucks because sometimes there's other things too, like a curfew. So if you want to do like missions that are only accessible at night, you have to really sneak because there's a curfew. Everyone just gets mad at you. I mean, the officers get mad at you if you're out after like 9 p.m. or so. So yeah, it gets frustrating. But when you get access to more scales, it does get more easy. Let me talk about the combat system. The combat is actually as basic as basic gets. You can find or buy weapons, and you just use them to defeat your enemies. And if you suck at sneaking, you can expect that you're going to be beating up a lot of enemies. But there's no shame in that. One button will block an attack. One button is for pushing people, so that kind of breaks their guard. Or if you want to run away and they're blocking a path, you can push them out of the way. I like that. And there's something else, there's the attack button, and that's all it is. So it's kind of like rock paper scissors. In terms of the enemy types, it's very very generic. It's just the basic man model, woman model, and the officer model, and that's about it. And I guess there's kind of like some zombie like kind of people, like people who like there's like a bad dosage of drug. So some people will be like acting all crazy, so like almost like in a frenzy state, and that's all the enemies you really see. There's like a boss. There's a couple of bosses, but I mean, uh, they're really gimmicky. It's not. This game doesn't really boast a very amazing combat system. The game length is actually decent. The game, I think it took me about. It's not like long. It's not like an RPG length, but it is decent for this kind of game. The thing is that I think it was about like maybe 15, 20 hours. It got lengthy for me without doing too many of the side quests. That was my time. But the thing is that although the game length is decent, it does get repetitive after a while. So after you go through the game, you'll get access to new characters and new campaigns. There's 3 of them. And, each of these characters have their own gameplay styles, unique skills exclusive to them. So it is really amazing because actually what this game does is it lets you experience different sides of the same story with a new dialogue being revealed from these new perspectives. But unfortunately, there is so much grinding, and the thing is that see, this game is really budgeted. So the developers who are trying to be intelligent, they tried to recycle main storyline dungeons and stuff by having different characters go to the same places at different times. And after a while, it gets very tiring. I would say that the second character is not too interesting. Like you'll see lots of people complaining. I won't spoil like anything like that, but like when you go on the forums, when you just hear people talk about it, everyone is saying that yeah, the second character it gets very into a chore. But the weird thing is that if you actually stick through it and check it out, see, I did that, and I was actually able to um to complete the third character's campaign, and it was much more interesting than the second characters. But both of them are not as good as the original. People always say that the original campaign with the original character Arthur is the most amazing there is, and it is true. And yeah, sadly, the game just gets so repetitive afterwards. Um, so like one character, again, I don't think this is a spoiler because you'll find out within like 5 minutes of like of playing the second character and the third character. Like one of the characters has a baby you have to take care of, so that becomes really a big chore. And then the third character actually has diabetes, and then I'm not joking, you actually have to find syringes and craft glucose solutions to inject yourself with, otherwise you get penalty. And yeah, if you don't take care of your baby and hook her at night, yeah, you get stressed out, and then again, penalty to the character stats. So it does become like, it's not game breaking, you don't lose the game, but the thing is, it makes the game more difficult because they reduce your stats, reduce how much you can run, that kind of stuff. It can get really, really tiring and frustrating, although I do admire them for making really unique characters, really unique gameplay. It doesn't feel like fun though, sadly. So overall, if I had to really summarize it, it is a really fun game to pick up, and it grows on you so much for the first few hours. But after a while, after the initial experience, it gets tiring. The atmosphere, the story, the art styles, all of that is very interesting, very unique. But at the same time, there are so many technical issues that hamper the experience. So many glitches, so many bad design elements, and so much boring gameplay that just only act as big downsides for this game. I got it for a cheaper price because I had purchased the game years ago, but I don't think that it's worth a full retail price at this moment in time. My recommendation is to definitely play the game eventually, and definitely do complete the first character's storyline. Although there are so many interesting plot revelations in the other characters' plots, in the other characters' missions, the game recycles like mad, and it can get really boring and tiring, so you'll probably want to take a break. I really do love the story in third characters campaign, but it's just, it takes so long to get to it. It does get tiring. My other recommendation is, I think you should just get the game when it's a bit cheaper. Um, I think that, yeah, again, I think the game is very original, like especially for nowadays when games are really homogenous and really like all the same boring stuff. When you don't see many interesting games, yeah, these indie kind of games are the only kind of interesting games that you'll find. And again, I really, really do praise the game for, look at it, like for being so interesting, for being so different. But I do think that you need to wait for some patches. So what you should do is maybe pick it up when it's cheaper, when it's on sale, and by then the patches will have come out that will stabilize the game, that will fix the frame rate, all of those issues. Because trust me, the technical issues are really, really bad, and I was playing it on a really high-end PC, and even still, I'm getting so many like frame rate issues. That's one thing that everyone is complaining about. It really sucks. It seems like, yeah, maybe they put finishing touches at the last minute, and boom, the game broke. Like, cause I didn't see this before. I played the early access version of the game years back, and it didn't have any issues like this. It's weird. And yeah, just wait for it, and I think that, yeah, the game will get improved from patches. Maybe they'll even fix some more of the inconveniences found in the game. It does suck that game developers are releasing like shitty games, and then I should say shitty, but poorly optimized games, and then patching it later, like after so many, like a couple of weeks and stuff. Like everyone just, they keep using the internet as an excuse. It really does suck. So yeah, like, I don't really know what else to say. Otherwise, the game is really, really fun. I think that maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on it, because I do know that with this title, it does have a very tight budget, and there's only so much they can do, so, but yeah, I want to keep that in mind as well. If you enjoyed watching the content in this video, please consider giving it a like. Also, please consider subscribing to our channel so that you can be the first to receive all of our latest content.